These are the 10 items that somebody would carry with them during the last ice age. Based on my own personal experiences when I'm out in the bush, my own research, some archaeological papers, I've kind of formulated my best assessment on what those items would be. Now, what somebody would carry would really be based on the event that they're doing. If they're moving from a fall time camp to a winter camp, they might have more stuff, more long-term sort of living sort of requirements. However, if they were heading out on a hunt, this is likely what they would be wearing and what they'd be carrying. Without a shadow of a doubt, they would have carried the weapon that they were hunting with. The bow and the arrow, the atlatl and dart, the throw stick, or even a thrusting spear. A weapon would have been carried. A knife, some sort of major cutting tool. And I'm not talking stone flakes or anything like that. Major cutting tool that would give them the opportunity to process any game, to cut away any fibers, cut away, or even use it as a defensive tool. Some form of stone knife would have been their choice. They would have wore it around their waist, probably attached to their loincloth, keeping it underneath their jacket, avoiding any chances of absolutely losing it. They would have had pouches. They would have had all sorts of different pouches. It would have been likely kept in some sort of bundle. And in that bundle, whether it was more of a fanny pack or a waist wrap, it would have been secured around their waist or slung over their shoulder. And inside of it would have been where they keep a majority of their items. In mine right here, I have some natural cordage. Cordage would have been something they would have carried with them in different forms and fashions, whether it was made from strict rawhide, an actual tanned animal hide, or some sort of plant fiber cordage. Cordage would have been a must. They would have carried some form of glue, even if it was a small amount of pine pitch glue or even some rawhide glue, but a glue would have worked well for their arrow fletchings as well as an arrow point if they needed to fix something or even rebind a seam on maybe their boots. But some form of adhesive definitely would have been an option. A fire making kit. And in that fire making kit, there would have been some dry tinder, a form of chert or flint, some sort of polypore along with that dry tinder to catch a spark when struck against a piece of marcasite. Now they could have used friction fires, but in a cold environment, it can be very difficult to create a fire. Knowing that a spark can be generated from marcasite and a piece of flint, they could throw that spark into their tinder bundle, blow it into flame, and ultimately produce a fire. Next, they would have had a real simple flintknapping kit. And in that flintknapping kit, they would have had a couple stone flakes and maybe a pressure flaker or two, or even some replacement sort of arrowheads or even spearheads. But the idea would have been as their arrow points maybe busted or they needed to make a quick spearhead, they would have had those replacement tools to actually create what they needed. A pressure flaker and a couple raw flakes will ultimately get the job done, but it's about creating something on the fly, carrying it on your person, and then getting it into action. They'd also have a form of bedding. Once they established where their day camp was, they could use this bedding to wrap up at night, throw around their shoulders. But if they were going out for a multi-day hunt, 2-3 days, a source of bedding, an extra layer to keep warm would have absolutely been an item they chose and wanted to carry with them. So we have their chosen weapon, a knife, a fire making kit, napping kit, form of glue, a couple pouches to carry everything in, a bit of bedding, and last but not least, clothing. Clothing would have been a must. There would have been an outer layer and even an under layer. You can see even on my clothing here, I have a piece of buckskin that serves as an underlayer as a hoodie. My outer layer is a deer hide jacket with a loincloth that hangs from the front. You could wear one, you could wear two. This is going to wrap underneath you, protecting those vital areas as well as covering your rear. A form of legging that connects the tie that goes around your loincloth, as well as boots. Got a lot of pine pitch on the toes. So when everything is said and done, these 10 items would have served multiple purposes. From warmth, to hunting, to fire, to making repairs, creating new tools. Importantly, there was redundancy amongst things. I'm gonna pack it up, back to my hunting. Fold and roll. Bow and bedding. All right, so that is 10 items somebody in the last ice age would be carrying on their person.